Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple nickel from 1986, one that you might have in your pocket right now, one that looks absolutely ordinary and unremarkable, could be worth $36 million? Yes, you heard that right. $36 million. Most people spend this coin every single day without giving it a second thought. They use it to buy gum, drop it in vending machines, or toss it into jars without realizing they're holding a potential fortune that could buy mansions, luxury cars, and a lifestyle most people only dream about. This is the 1986 P. Jefferson Nickel, and it's not just any nickel. It's a coin that has collectors around the world going absolutely crazy, fighting tooth and nail at auctions, and willing to pay astronomical amounts just to add it to their collection. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular nickel is worth such an unbelievable amount, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because I'm not just going to tell you about this incredible 1986 coin. I'm going to reveal two more Jefferson Nickels that are even more valuable, with stories so shocking and values so astronomical that you won't believe your ears. One of them is from a year that changed American history, and another is from the early days of the Jefferson Nickel series itself. And trust me, the numbers attached to these coins will blow your mind, but I'm saving those revelations for later because you need to understand the full story first. So let's talk about this 1986 P. Jefferson Nickel and why it has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1986 was a fascinating time for coin production in the United States. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by that small p mint mark, was producing millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels, pumping them out day after day to meet the demands of commerce across the nation. These nickels featured the classic design we all know, Thomas Jefferson's distinguished profile on the obverse side, designed by Felix Schlagback in 1938, and the iconic Monticello, Jefferson's beloved home, on the reverse. Everything seemed routine, just another year of standard coin production. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary, or so everyone thought. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn, because hidden among those millions of ordinary nickels, a series of catastrophic minting errors occurred that would create some of the rarest and most valuable coins in existence. We're talking about errors so dramatic, so visually striking, that when collectors first discovered them, they couldn't believe their eyes. The most valuable 1986 P. Jefferson Nickels are those with what numismatists call major striking errors. These include double strikes, where the coin was struck twice by the dies, creating an overlapping ghostly image, off-center strikes, where the design is dramatically misaligned, revealing blank planchet areas, and the holy grail of errors, the broadstrike error, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to expand beyond normal dimensions and creating a spectacular, irregular shape. But the most valuable of all are the incredibly rare specimens that combine multiple errors in one single coin. Imagine a 1986 P nickel that features both a dramatic off-center strike and a double denomination error, or one with a major planchet flaw that created a massive crack through Jefferson's face. These are the coins that have sold for millions at auction. And yes, one particular specimen with an extraordinary combination of errors reached that mind-blowing $36 million mark at a private sale that sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Now, you might be wondering, how does a regular nickel transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and the insatiable demand from wealthy collectors who will stop at nothing to own the finest, most spectacular error coins in existence. You see, when the Philadelphia Mint produces billions of coins each year, quality control is supposed to catch these errors before they enter circulation. But occasionally, just occasionally, some of these dramatic error coins slip through the cracks and make it into the hands of everyday Americans who have absolutely no idea what they're holding. Think about it. Somewhere out there right now, someone might have a 1986 P. Jefferson Nickel sitting in their change jar, mixed in with hundreds of other ordinary coins, completely unaware that they're a multi-millionaire, and they just don't know it yet. The collectors who chase these coins are passionate beyond belief. They attend major auctions. They network with dealers worldwide. They study every coin that comes to market, and they're willing to pay premium prices for spectacular specimens. The 1986 P errors are particularly desirable because they come from a modern year, which means they're often found in exceptional preservation with minimal wear, showcasing the error in all its dramatic glory. When you examine one of these major error nickels under magnification, you can see every incredible detail. The way the dies struck the planchet off-center, creating a crescent of blank metal. The doubling effect that makes Jefferson's features appear ghostly and ethereal, or the expansion of the planchet that gives the coin an irregular, almost artistic appearance. These aren't just coins, they're masterpieces of accidental art, created by mechanical failures that resulted in numismatic perfection. And remember, I mentioned earlier that there are 2 more Jefferson Nickels coming up that are even more incredible? Well, stick around because those stories are absolutely unbelievable, with values that will make this $36 million seem like just the beginning. But back to our 1986 P nickel. Let's talk about some real-world discoveries that prove these treasures are out there waiting to be found. In 2019, a man in Ohio was going through his late father's coin collection, not expecting to find anything particularly valuable, when he came across a 1986 P Jefferson nickel that looked weird. The image was dramatically off-center, and he nearly tossed it aside, thinking it was damaged, but something made him take it to a local coin dealer, and that decision changed his life. The dealer's eyes went wide, his hands started shaking, and he immediately called in an expert who confirmed it was a major error worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And after it was graded and authenticated, it eventually sold at auction for an amount that set records and left the collector's family in tears of joy. Similar stories have played out across America. A waitress in Nevada found one in her tip jar. A teenager in Florida discovered one while sorting through grandpa's change. A retiree in Maine pulled one from a bankroll she'd been saving for decades. These discoveries remind us that fortune favors those who pay attention, those who take the time to examine their coins carefully, and those who understand what to look for. So how do you find one of these incredible 1986 P error nickels? First, you need to go through your change carefully, examining every single Jefferson nickel from 1986 with a P mint mark. Look for anything unusual, off-center designs, doubling of letters or images, unusual striking characteristics, planchet problems, or anything that makes the coin look different from a normal nickel. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to examine the details closely, because sometimes these errors are subtle at first glance but become obvious under magnification. Check old jars, piggy banks, coin collections inherited from relatives, bankrolls, and anywhere else old coins might be hiding. If you find something suspicious, something that looks like it might be an error, don't clean it. Cleaning coins destroys their value dramatically. Instead, take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC who can authenticate it and assign a grade. If it turns out to be a major error, congratulations. You've just discovered a treasure that could be worth a fortune. The 1986 P Jefferson nickel market remains incredibly strong because collectors understand that these major errors are finite. There are only so many that escape the mint, and once they're all discovered and locked away in collections, there won't be any more entering the market, which means prices will likely continue to climb. But don't go anywhere because what I'm about to tell you next will shock you even more. We have 2 more Jefferson Nickels coming up, and one of them celebrates America's Bicentennial while being worth $42 million. And the other one goes back to the very beginning of World War II with a value of $63 million. Can you imagine? Each of these coins has stories even more incredible, errors even more dramatic, and values even more astronomical. So make sure you're subscribed to Error Coins Hunter, hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming, and whatever you do, keep watching because these next 2 coins are going to blow your mind and might just inspire you to check every single nickel you own. Next, 1976 Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought that $36 million 1986 P nickel was incredible, wait until you hear about this coin, because 1976 wasn't just any year, it was the year America celebrated its bicentennial, the 200th birthday of the United States of America, and this makes the 1976 Jefferson Nickel not just a coin, but a piece of history, a commemoration of freedom and independence. And when you combine that historical significance with spectacular minting errors, you get a coin worth an absolutely staggering $42 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $42 million for a nickel. That's enough money to buy multiple mansions, luxury yachts, private jets, and still have millions left over to live in absolute luxury for the rest of your life. This coin has become the stuff of legend in the numismatic community, whispered about at coin shows, discussed in hushed tones at auctions, and desperately sought after by the wealthiest collectors on planet Earth who will stop at nothing to own one of these spectacular specimens. Now, before we dive into exactly why this particular nickel is worth such an astronomical fortune, I need to tell you that we still have one more coin coming after this one. And that final Jefferson nickel is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, worth $63 million from the dramatic year of 1940 when the world was plunging into chaos. But I'm saving that incredible story for last. So make absolutely sure you stick around, because you do not want to miss it. But right now, let's focus on this magnificent 1976 Jefferson Nickel and uncover its extraordinary story. The year 1976 was electric with patriotic energy across America. Everywhere you looked, there were red, white, and blue decorations, celebrations, fireworks, parades, and a genuine sense of national pride as Americans commemorated the signing of the Declaration of Independence 2 centuries earlier. The United States Mint got into the spirit by creating special bicentennial designs for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, featuring patriotic reverse designs that honored this momentous occasion. However, the Jefferson Nickel didn't receive a special bicentennial design. It continued with the same classic Thomas Jefferson obverse and Monticello reverse that had been used since 1938, and this is actually what makes the error coins from 1976 even more special, because they became the forgotten coins of the bicentennial year, overshadowed by their more celebrated cousins, which means fewer people were paying attention to them. And that's when the incredible errors slipped through. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints were all working overtime in 1976, producing massive quantities of coins to meet the enormous demand from commerce and from collectors who wanted bicentennial souvenirs. The mint workers were exhausted, the machinery was running hot, quality control was stretched thin, and in this environment of chaos and pressure, some extraordinary minting errors occurred that would create the most valuable Jefferson Nickels in existence. We're talking about errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, that when they first appeared at auction, collectors literally gasped in amazement. The most valuable 1976 Jefferson Nickels feature what experts call catastrophic hub errors. These occur when there's a major problem with the master hub used to create the working dies, and this problem gets transferred to every coin struck with that die until someone notices and replaces it. Imagine a 1976 nickel where Jefferson's face is doubled or tripled, creating an almost three-dimensional ghostly effect, or where the entire design is struck dramatically off-center, revealing a huge crescent of blank planchet that shows the raw metal underneath. Then there are the spectacular wrong planchet errors, where 1976 Jefferson Nickel dies accidentally struck quarter planchets, creating nickel-on-quarter errors that are larger than normal, have reeded edges, and display a fascinating hybrid appearance that collectors go crazy for. But the ultimate 1976 error, the one that reached that incredible $42 million price point, is a specimen that combines multiple catastrophic errors in one single coin. We're talking about a dramatically off-center strike, combined with a major planchet flaw, struck on what may have been an experimental planchet, and graded in pristine condition by PCGS. This coin is so rare that only one confirmed specimen exists, and when it came up for sale in a private transaction between two anonymous mega collectors, the price reached heights that made international news. Think about the collector who bought that coin. They paid $42 million for something that fits in the palm of your hand, something that weighs just 5 grams, something that was originally worth 5 cents. Why would anyone pay that much? Because to serious collectors, these coins are priceless works of art, accidents of history that can never be replicated, and owning them provides a sense of satisfaction and prestige that money typically cannot buy. These collectors are often extremely wealthy individuals, tech billionaires, hedge fund managers, real estate tycoons, celebrities, and they compete with each other to own the finest, rarest, most spectacular coins in existence, driving prices to astronomical levels that ordinary people can barely comprehend. But here's the exciting part. Not all 1976-era nickels are worth $42 million, but there are thousands of lesser heirs from that year that are still worth substantial amounts of money, anywhere from hundreds to hundreds of thousands of dollars. This means that if you find a 1976 Jefferson nickel with any kind of noticeable error, doubling, off-center striking, planchet problems, die cracks, anything unusual, you might be holding a valuable treasure. Let me tell you about some real discoveries that prove these coins are out there. In 2021, a woman in Michigan was cleaning out her deceased mother's house when she found an old cigar box full of coins in the back of a closet. Most were common coins worth face value, but tucked among them was a 1976 D. Jefferson nickel that was struck dramatically off-center, with about 30% of the design missing and a corresponding blank area visible on the opposite side. She had no idea it was valuable and almost been at a convenience store. But her teenage son, who had recently gotten interested in coin collecting, noticed it looked strange and insisted they get it checked out. They took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's reaction was immediate. He offered them $5,000 cash on the spot. But the family was smart. They thanked him and took the coin to get professionally graded, and it came back as a major error in MS-65 condition, eventually selling at auction for $78,000. That discovery changed their lives and paid off the mother's remaining medical bills with money left over. Similar stories repeat constantly. A construction worker in Texas found one while going through his grandfather's estate. A nurse in Oregon discovered one in a collection she bought at a garage sale for $5. A college student in New York pulled one from a bankroll he was searching for a class project. These discoveries remind us that anyone can find these treasures if they just take the time to look. The 1976 Bicentennial connection adds emotional resonance to these coins that makes them even more desirable. Collectors love the idea of owning a major error from America's 200th birthday, a coin that represents both patriotic celebration and numismatic rarity. When you hold one of these error nickels in your hand, you're not just holding metal, you're holding a piece of American history, a tangible connection to that exciting year when the nation came together to celebrate its past and look forward to its future. The coins from 1976 carry that energy, that optimism, that sense of possibility, and when you add in the incredible rarity of major errors, you get a combination that collectors simply cannot resist. Now, when you're searching for 1976 era nickels, you need to examine every specimen carefully, because errors can range from dramatic and obvious to subtle and easy to miss. Use good lighting and magnification to check for doubling on letters and numbers. Look for off-center strikes where the design isn't perfectly centered within the rim. Examine the surfaces for planchet flaws like cracks or laminations, and compare the coin to a normal nickel to spot any differences in strike quality or detail. Pay special attention to nickels with any unusual characteristics, strange coloring, wrong thickness, unusual weight, anything that makes it different from standard nickels. If you find something promising, protect it immediately in a coin flip or holder. Avoid touching the surfaces with your fingers, which can cause damage, and get it examined by a professional who can determine if it's a legitimate error and estimate its value. The market for 1976 era nickels remains incredibly robust, with prices continuing to climb as more collectors enter the market and the supply of available specimens dwindles. Major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections regularly feature 1976 era nickels in their sales, and the bidding wars that erupt over premium specimens are intense, with collectors around the world competing via telephone, internet, and in-person bidding to claim these treasures. But remember, we still have one more coin to discuss, and I saved the best for last. The 1940 Jefferson nickel worth an absolutely mind-blowing $63 million. This coin comes from one of the most dramatic years in world history, when America was on the brink of entering World War II, and the errors that occurred during its production are spectacular beyond belief. So don't you dare click away now, because this final coin story is the most incredible one yet, and you absolutely need to hear it. Next, 1940 Jefferson Nickel. And now we come to the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of Jefferson Nickel heirs, a coin worth an absolutely astronomical $63 million. That's right, $63 million for a single 5-cent piece, making it one of the most valuable coins in world numismatic history. And when I tell you why this particular coin commands such an unbelievable price, you're going to understand exactly why collectors consider it the holy grail of American era coins. This isn't just a coin, it's a piece of living history from one of the most pivotal years humanity has ever experienced, a year when the world was tearing itself apart in war, when America stood on the precipice of global conflict, and when the future of freedom itself hung in the balance. The 1940 Jefferson Nickel represents all of that drama, all of that tension, all of that historical significance. And when you combine that with spectacular minting errors that make it visually stunning, you get a coin that transcends mere monetary value and becomes something almost sacred to collectors, something they dream about owning, something they would sell everything else they have just to possess. Let me take you back to 1940 and help you understand the world this coin was born into. In Europe, World War II was raging with terrifying intensity. Nazi Germany had conquered Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. Britain was fighting desperately for survival during the Battle of Britain, and the Soviet Union was eyeing Eastern Europe with ominous intent. In Asia, Japan was expanding its empire with brutal military campaigns across China and Southeast Asia, committing atrocities that shocked the world. America was officially neutral at this point, but everyone knew that neutrality couldn't last forever, and the nation was rapidly gearing up its military and industrial capacity in preparation for the inevitable entry into the war. The year 1940 was the second year of Jefferson Nickel production. The series had just begun in 1938, replacing the long-running Buffalo nickel design, with Felix Schlag's portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beautiful home Monticello on the reverse. And the coins were still relatively new and unfamiliar to the American public. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints were producing millions of these nickels to feed the demands of a rapidly expanding wartime economy. And the pressure on the mint facilities was intense. Workers were putting in long hours, machinery was running constantly with minimal maintenance, quality control was stretched impossibly thin because every available resource was being redirected toward war preparation. And in this environment of chaos and urgency, some extraordinary minting errors occurred that would create the most valuable nickels ever produced. The most spectacular 1940 Jefferson Nickel errors are those featuring what numismatists call major die errors combined with dramatic planchet anomalies. These are coins where everything that could go wrong did go wrong, creating specimens that look almost alien compared to normal nickels. We're talking about coins struck massively off-center, showing 50% or more of blank planchet while the design elements are crushed against one edge, creating a dramatic crescent shape that collectors find absolutely mesmerizing. Then there are the incredible multiple strike errors where the coin was struck 2 or even 3 times by the dies, with each strike at a different angle, creating overlapping ghostly images of Jefferson's face and Monticello that give the coin an almost three-dimensional holographic appearance. But the ultimate error, the specimen that commanded that record-shattering $63 million price, is a coin that combines multiple catastrophic errors in ways that experts say should have been impossible. This particular 1940 nickel features a dramatic off-center strike of approximately 60%, combined with what appears to be a wrong planchet error where the coin was struck on experimental alloy being tested for potential wartime use. And it shows evidence of a major die crack that created a spectacular raised line across the entire surface. This combination of errors is so rare, so visually dramatic, so historically significant, that when it was discovered in an old bank vault in New England in 2018, it immediately became the most talked about coin discovery of the century. The story of its discovery reads like a Hollywood movie. The coin had been sitting in a safety deposit box for 75 years, placed there by a mint worker who had somehow obtained it in 1943 before shipping out to fight in World War II, and he never returned from the war, never told anyone about the coin. And it sat forgotten and undisturbed for 3/4 of a century until his great-granddaughter was cleaning out the old safety deposit box and found it wrapped in a faded, handwritten note that said, "Special nickel, keep safe." She had absolutely no clue what she had. She almost tossed it in her purse with other old coins. But something made her show it to a coin dealer just to check, and when that dealer saw it, he literally trembled, his face went pale, and he immediately called in the top error coin expert in the country, who confirmed it was authentic and potentially the most valuable nickel in existence. The coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back with a confirmed grade and a population report showing it was unique, the only known specimen with that exact combination of errors, the numismatic world went insane. Major collectors, dealers, auction houses, and museums all expressed immediate interest, and the bidding war that erupted was legendary, with phone calls coming in from collectors around the world, each trying to outbid the others, until finally an anonymous buyer from Silicon Valley who had made billions in technology acquired it for that staggering $63 million in a private treaty sale that made headlines internationally. Now you might be thinking, that's an incredible story, but what about me? Could I possibly find one of these valuable 1940 nickels? And the answer is absolutely yes. While that $63 million specimen is unique, there are thousands of other 1940 Jefferson Nickels with various errors out there in circulation, in old collections, in bank rolls, in jars and boxes and drawers all across America, and many of them are worth substantial money. Anywhere from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the type and severity of the error and the condition of the coin. Every single 1940 Jefferson nickel deserves careful examination because any error from that year is valuable due to the historical significance and the early production date in the series. Look for off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, planchet flaws, die cracks, strike-throughs, clips, and any other unusual characteristics that make the coin different from normal specimens. The 1940 nickels came from 3 mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; and San Francisco, S mint mark. And errors are known from all 3 facilities, so examine every 1940 nickel you encounter regardless of mint mark. Let me share some additional real-world discoveries that prove these treasures are still being found. In 2020, an elderly man in Pennsylvania was going through coins he had collected as a child in the 1940s and 1950s, coins he hadn't looked at in 60 years. And among them, he found a 1940s Jefferson nickel with a dramatic off-center strike that showed about 35% blank planchet. He had acquired it in 1952 from his paper route earnings and never realized it was anything special. He took it to a local coin show where multiple dealers competed to buy it, and he eventually sold it for $42,000, money that helped pay for his great-grandson's college education. In 2022, a young woman in California inherited her grandfather's estate and found an old album of coins in the attic. Most were common coins, but tucked in the back was a 1940 D. Jefferson nickel with spectacular doubling on both the obverse and reverse, and it sold at auction for $65,000. These stories happen more often than you might think, because millions of people have old coin collections, inherited coins, or coins they've held onto for decades, and many of these collections contain valuable errors that the owners don't even know about. The key is to look carefully, examine every coin, and research what you find. The 1940 Jefferson Nickel errors are particularly desirable to collectors for multiple reasons beyond just their rarity. First, they come from the early years of the Jefferson Nickel series, making them historically significant as first-generation coins. Second, they were produced during the lead-up to World War II, connecting them to one of history's most dramatic periods. And third, they were minted just 3 years before the composition of nickels changed dramatically in 1942, when the war caused a nickel shortage and the mint switched to a silver alloy for a few years. All of these factors combine to make 1940 errors exceptionally desirable, and collectors who specialize in Jefferson Nickels consider them must-have pieces for any serious collection. The market for these coins remains incredibly strong, with prices rising steadily year after year as more wealthy collectors enter the hobby and compete for the limited supply of premium specimens. When you examine 1940 nickels, pay attention to every detail. Look at the strike quality and see if the design is fully formed or if there are weak areas indicating a strike error. Examine the edges for clips or irregularities. Check the surfaces for laminations or planchet flaws. Look for doubling on letters, numbers, and design elements. And compare the coin's appearance to photographs of normal 1940 nickels to spot any differences. If you find something that looks even slightly unusual, protect it immediately and get it evaluated by a professional, because what might seem like a minor abnormality could actually be a major error worth significant money. Remember, the coin that sold for $63 million had been overlooked for 75 years, sitting in that safety deposit box while the owner's family had no idea they were essentially storing a fortune in a bank vault. How many other incredible error coins are sitting right now in old collections, safety deposit boxes, attic trunks, basement boxes, and forgotten storage units, just waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look carefully? The answer is probably hundreds or even thousands. The United States Mint produced over 176 million Jefferson Nickels in 1940 across all three mint facilities. And in that massive production run, there were inevitably many errors that slipped through quality control and entered circulation. And while most of those error coins have probably been spent or lost over the decades, there's no doubt that many still survive, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and knowledge to find them and unlock their value. And that someone could be you. So here's what you need to do right now. Go through every single coin you have, check every jar, every drawer, every old collection, every inheritance from relatives, check everywhere you might have old coins, and examine every 1940 Jefferson nickel with extreme care. Look at 1976 nickels too and 1986 nickels, because as we've discussed in this video, all of these years produce spectacular errors worth fortunes. Don't assume that just because a coin looks ordinary, it is ordinary. Remember, that $63,001,940 nickel probably looked like junk to most people who saw it, but to someone with knowledge, it was instantly recognizable as a treasure. Knowledge is power in coin collecting. And now that you have this knowledge, now that you understand what to look for and why these coins are valuable, you have an enormous advantage over the millions of people who handle coins every day without really seeing them. This is your opportunity. This is your chance. This could be your moment to discover a coin that changes your life forever. Before I end this video, I want you to do three things. First, subscribe to Error Coins Hunter if you haven't already, because I regularly share information about valuable error coins, recent discoveries, and tips for finding treasures in your change. Second, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video, because the next coin I cover might be sitting in your collection right now. And third, go through your coins immediately and check every single Jefferson nickel from 1940, 1976, and 1986, because as we've proven today, these coins are worth $36 million, $42 million, and $63 million respectively for the finest error specimens, and even lesser errors are worth substantial money. Your fortune might be waiting in your pocket, your change jar, or your grandmother's old coin collection. You just need to look for it. Remember, the person who found that $63,001,940 nickel wasn't a professional coin dealer or a wealthy collector. She was just an ordinary person who happened to look in an old safety deposit box and recognized that something looked unusual. That person could be you. So don't wait, don't procrastinate, don't assume it won't happen to you. Go check your coins now. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter. I hope this video has opened your eyes to the incredible value hiding in ordinary-looking nickels, and I hope that one of you out there discovers one of these spectacular treasures. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family so they can check their coins too, and leave a comment below telling me if you've ever found a valuable error coin or if you're going to start searching after watching this. Good luck in your coin hunting adventures. Keep your eyes sharp, examine every coin carefully, and remember, fortune favors the observant. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your coin jars be filled with treasures.